Welcome to the Wednesday, November 25th edition of the SVG-TV News. I am Khalil Kato with the details. St. Vincent and the Grenadines today joined the rest of the world in observing International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Activities launched today also kicked off 16 days of activism. In a message in observance of the day, President of the National Council of Women, Beverly Richards, said that more has to be done to address violence against women, bearing in mind that the day is observed annually, but with little progress made.
Every year we commemorate November 25th, but little progress is made and at an alarming slow rate. Because each year, the statistics is fluctuated within the range of each year. Let us start with education. Remove the blame game mentality. Believe the victim or the survivor and stop making the perpetrator the victim. Empower our women and girls to be dignified beings. Women's bodies are not to be sacrificed on the profane altar of advertising, profit, and profanity. But we are wonderfully made, and our bodies are the temple of the Lord.
Richard said that the 16 days of activism, that should be as the 16 days of activism starts, every person can do their part to raise awareness on violence in SVG.
Let us mind our neighbor's business. Look out for each other. Once we know that everyone has a right to be free from all forms of violence, and that you yourself have a responsibility to help to achieve that right. Be in solidarity, wear your orange for the 16 days activism. As we orange our country, we orange the world. We protect our women and our girls from domestic violence.
Richards said that violence is not only physical, but there is also psychological as well, noting that rape and unwanted sexual advances remain a problem in society. The Women's Committee of the Public Service Union, the PSU, would like to see more done to eliminate violence against women and girls. The chair of the committee, Desrita Jilks, says that from all indications, the issue has become dormant and more needs to be done. She was speaking today at a panel discussion organized by the union, which looked at the issue of violence, as this country observed International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls on theme Orange the World, finding empowerment in all the chaos. Jilk said she is hopeful that more can be done for women who are experiencing violence.
Here in St. Vincent, it appears as though we are condemning our women into violence. One, when we continue to find so-called logical reasons why these acts of violence may have occurred, and two, when we continue to normalize these acts as part of our culture. Our society is becoming so accepting of violence that we appear to be numb or insensitive to the fact that our women and girls are victims. We have an obligation as citizens, as Vincentians, to protect our women and girls. And we can only achieve that by seriously recognizing that there is indeed a huge problem and needs to be addressed.
Jilks compared the statistics for the last 3 years and said that while 253 reports of violence were recorded last year, there are many women who did not make a report. Hence, she called on the government to ensure the Sexual Harassment Act is passed in Parliament.
What's it? What is the significant decrease when it comes to violence against our women and girls? It is clear that the rights of our women and girls is not being seriously considered. There is clearly a need for stronger legislation, stricter punishment for perpetrators, more upgraded facilities and safe houses that protect and care for the emotional and psychological well-being of our women and girls, a special unit within our police department with the expertise and professionalism needed to seriously address all issues of gender violence, a sexual harassment policy for both the private sector and the public service, and by extension, is Sexual Harassment Act. The issue of violence and harassment in the workplace is also one of concern by this union.
Minister of the Public Service, Frederick Stevenson, noted that the Domestic Violence Act was passed in 2015 and the Sexual Harassment Act will also be addressed.
I listened to the call in relation to sexual harassment in the workplace. I have had some initial discussions in relation to that new piece of legislation by the United Nations Convention on Sexual Harassment in the Workplace. I believe that too is before the Attorney General's chambers for them to work on it. And I'm hopeful that my ministry and the Ministry of National Mobilization would be working together with the unions to see how best we can put those issues at work and to ensure that sexual violence in the workplace is something which we have to deal with and deal with properly.
The panelists at today's session were Barrister at Law Zita Barnwell, Psychologist Dr. Kimberly Cambridge, and President of the National Council of Women, Denise Stevens. The newly appointed Minister of the Public Service has committed to working closely with the PSU and addressing issues affecting its members. Minister Stevenson gave the commitment today at the opening ceremony of a one-day workshop organized by the PSU in observance of International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. The minister said that he is ready to have talks with the union for the benefit of workers in the public service.
I hope that we would have a good working relationship with all the unions here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and more importantly the Public Service Union, as we seek to highlight some of the challenges faced by the members of the public service. I look forward to having to meet with the union leadership as soon as the office space is completed, because we're still doing some retrofitting there. It is important for me to understand from you what are some of your concerns and the many different issues that, as a minister, I'll take to cabinet and see how best we can get these issues resolved.
Meanwhile, President of the Public Service Union, Elroy Boucher, asked that policies regarding domestic violence among the public service be addressed.
I am particularly delighted that the Honorable Frederick Stevenson is among us, simply because he was the minister with responsibility for gender affairs and mobilization, and I would have heard him speak on this very issue last year. And so there is some continuity with respect to understanding the issues that are confronting us as a people. And as minister with responsibility for the public service, he will be the person who we as a union will now approach as regards a policy that addresses sexual harassment within the public service.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, who is the current chair of CARICOM, said steps are being taken to ensure that any possible vaccine for COVID-19 will be made available to SVG and other CARICOM member states. Speaking today on NBC Radio, PM Gonzalez said CARICOM countries have been working together with the World Health Organization, the WHO, and the Global Health Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization to try to protect member countries against what could be called vaccine nationalism in relation to the production and distribution of a COVID-19 vaccine, which could soon be finalized. Dr. Gonzalez said as long as there is a vaccine, it is important that it be made available for all humanity.
Vaccine nationalism or vaccine protectionism can't work really with the pandemic, and that's why the WHO has been involved. And I've just recently, as chairman of CARICOM, written off a couple of letters addressing similar subjects, and but we are getting there, and there are institutional arrangements for us to get the vaccine in our part of the world when it becomes available, when all the various trials are done, everything is done. So I just want to point that out, that we are working together on it, and the work started before I became chairman of CARICOM and continues.
In relation to this country's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Gonzalez maintained that SVG has done a good job in controlling the spread of the virus. He said that this can be attributed to the hard work of the health professionals and the policies of his administration, which have been recognized by the U.S. Center for Disease Control, designating SVG as a low-risk country for contracting COVID-19. Despite this, the Prime Minister said the country cannot drop its guard and become complacent. Noting the spike in cases in neighboring countries such as St. Lucia, the Prime Minister said the Coast Guard Service has been patrolling the waters in order to protect citizens not only from COVID-19, but from other kinds of activities which can threaten the health and safety of citizens.
We must bear in mind, though, that we have about 11,000 square nautical miles of seascape. So it's a wide and expansive area. But in addition to that, we work through the regional security system, and the overflights by the C-26 aircraft, that they provide also additional information to help us in protecting our borders. And our borders include not only just our landmass, but also our exclusive economic zone and the extent of the extent of the seascape under our own jurisdiction.
The OECS Diabetes Prevention and Care Project, in collaboration with the SVG Diabetes and Hypertensive Association, hosted their 6th Diabetes Symposium today at the Methodist Church Hall. The symposium is among activities organized as part of Diabetic Awareness Month and World Diabetes Day, which was observed on November 14th. In her presentation, consultant pediatrician Dr. Sharianne Davis Andrews highlighted the impacts and challenges of diabetes on children, young adults, and women during pregnancy. She said that type 1 diabetes in children could cause severe complications, which could lead to death.
In children, what you may notice is somebody who was potty trained, somebody who knows to go to the bathroom at a certain time is now wetting themselves, is now wetting the bed, right? And that means that they're having more frequent urination. So that is the frequency that they're having. So it's large, frequent volumes of urine. The other thing, they may be thirsty a lot. So you said they're drinking down the place, they're eating down the place, they complain, Doc, this child eating down the place, but she just seems to be losing weight or not even gaining weight. You wonder where all that food is going, all right? So that is a classic presentation. So diabetic ketoacidosis is something that I won't say we fear, but it's a presentation that comes with serious complications and concerns. A child who presents with diabetic ketoacidosis can actually die. So what happens is their body actually is not getting insulin, and the body, instead of using glucose, is now breaking down everything else, fats, to produce energy.
Dr. Andrews said that children can exhibit certain mental issues coping with diabetes and may need to be properly educated about the condition and receive counseling. She also noted that when children who are diabetic become adolescents, they can become delinquent, and some of the things done in their daily routine can create even more complications for them.
Typical concerns that we may hear from time to time: I feel like a burden, I have to go to clinic, my parents have to go to clinic, they have to buy this, they have to buy that, or they're being treated differently. You know, now that I'm sick, everybody is treating me differently, nobody wants to treat me like everybody else. They may have issues coping with constant parental questions about what he ate, how much he ate, let me see, remember not to eat. You know, feeling and how they're feeling. How you feeling today? How you feeling today? Whether or not you took your insulin. Or sometimes there are even siblings who get so jealous because no, mommy and daddy is spending all this time with you, going to clinic, and not spending time with me.
Dr. Andrews said due to the risk factors and psychological impact on diabetic children and young adults, the family and community need to give them a lot of support. Globally, there are more than
Diabetes in children is real, and unfortunately it's a challenge socially, psychologically, and they often become frustrated with this chronic disease, especially our adolescents, and they require good support from family, from community, and psychosocial support to make it through this hurdle. Keep your diabetes under control, which we heard throughout today. Exercise regularly, follow the diet plan, and manage your comorbidities, because we know diabetes is a challenge, but it's even more difficult when it is compounded with a high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity. It makes it even more challenging to manage, and the risk of long-term complications would be higher. So manage your comorbidities and regularly screen for your complications.
Globally, there are more than 1.1 million children and young adults who suffer from diabetes, and 20 million pregnancies have complications. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a 2013-2014 survey showed that 4.8% of the population uses medication for diabetes. Commissioner of Police Colin John has asked for regional help to further investigate the reported pirate attacks on 2 Vincentian fishermen, which took place on November 13th, more than 50 miles out at sea. The commissioner told SVG-TV News that the local Coast Guard submitted a report and the regional security system has since been contacted. He pointed out that other countries in the region have had similar complaints of pirate attacks.
Well, we are conducting investigations into it. The Coast Guard commander submitted his report. He also spoke to the executive director of the regional security system, which is Captain Ellington Shawlan. We're doing a regional approach towards it because we receive information that other Caribbean countries may have suffered the same attack. Same type of attack. We are gathering information right now, so I can't say exactly when it would come to a close. But as I said before, we are taking a regional approach towards it. We are working along with the regional security system for them to assist us in this investigation.
Commissioner John said, bearing in mind that the fishermen said the attack was done by Venezuelans, the Venezuelan ambassador to St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been contacted and has agreed to work with the Coast Guard.
We also spoke to the Venezuelan ambassador. He should be coordinating a meeting between our local Coast Guard and the Venezuelan Coast Guard to deal with it.
The Commissioner of Police said the local Coast Guard will increase patrols, noting that the matter is a security concern which needs to be addressed.
It's something to be concerned about. You're talking about the livelihood of Vincentian, you're talking about them being deprived of their property. Every offense is something to be concerned about, but we are, as far as possible, putting things in place to mitigate it. I know the Coast Guard, they are increasing their patrols. They are further utilizing the making use of the large Coast Guard vessel. Other countries, we are including them in our patrols.
The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Coast Guard Service has achieved a new milestone following the successful completion by one of its officers of a 3-month international marine course earlier this month. Lieutenant William Tibbles, who has served 26 years with the Coast Guard Service, became the first Vincentian to complete the International Maritime Operators course at the United States Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, graduating from the program on November 6th. The International Maritime Operators Course was a 12-week program which prepares naval officers to support planning and execution of complex maritime operations in a coalition environment. The police said in a release that Lieutenant Tibbles and the other participants now possess the capability of performing the role of a staff officer on a multinational or national combined maritime staff, applying the fundamental concepts of operational art, and perform as a member of an operational planning team. The Coast Guard officer also has regional experience, having worked as a maritime training officer at the Regional Security System, RSS, for 4 years. Commissioner of Police Colin John, the Coast Guard Commander Brenton Kane, and the rank and file of officers of both the Police and Coast Guard Service have congratulated Lieutenant Tibbles on his achievement. Some 195 households affected by the recent weather associated with tropical storms between October 28th and November 1st stand to receive support from the government. Speaking on NBC Radio's face-to-face program today, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez said a preliminary damage assessment report points to almost $2 million in damage and loss. Of the 195 households, 95 are in the South Central Windward constituency. Giving a further breakdown of the spread, the Prime Minister said 16 houses were damaged in North Central Windward, 48 in South Windward, 7 in East St. George, Mariaqua had 18, Kingstown 2, South Leeward 2, and 15 in North Leeward. Dr. Gonzalez said approval has already been given for the relevant personnel to move ahead with the damage assessment report, which Cabinet was certifying today, so that preparations for the necessary documents can be done, including a special warrant for funding.
We have to get money more than likely out of the contingency fund, which at the end of the contingency fund has almost $40 million in it. No. We have to take 10 million out of it for some COVID expenditure. And so we'll have to get this. By the way, in that money is the 1 percentage point which went on the VAT, which the opposition said is killing poor people. Well, I don't know who are the persons who are getting that money now if it's not poor people.
The contingency fund was instituted 3 years ago and is being funded by a 1 percentage point increase in VAT, which moved from 15% to 16%, and a hotel tax of $3 per room per night. Small farmers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be the focus of a survey under the Resilient Environment and Agricultural Caribbean Habitat REACH project. Over the next 2 weeks, extension officers will be conducting a survey. Extension officers conducting the survey will visit farmers to collect information as part of a communications audit. The survey is designed to capture the impact of the project on small farming communities, current practices of small farmers in reducing their risks to hazards, and suggestions on future work, which can be undertaken to help farmers build resilience to external shocks. The data collected will serve to inform future improvements which can be made to enhance communication between small farmers and relevant national, government, and regional agencies. A similar survey will be undertaken in St. Lucia over the same period. The implementers of the REACH project say the survey of small farmers was preceded on Monday, November 9th, by a virtual orientation and training session facilitated by representatives of the coordinating unit of the Caribbean Disaster Management Agency, SEDIMA. The Police Cooperative Credit Union, the PCCU, is once again providing funding for the annual Police Caroling Contest, which is scheduled to take place on December 18th. On Monday, November 23rd, manager of the credit union, Ayanna Samuel, handed over a check of $5,000 to Police Commissioner Colin John to offset expenses for the event, which it has been sponsoring since 2012. The police said it views the caroling contest as a very important event on the calendar of activities of the organization, as well as for the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Commissioner John, expressing gratitude, observed that the police force and the police credit union are indelibly joined together, the credit union being a product of the police force. And credit union manager Samuel noted that while the credit union, which has been in existence for 17 years, is the smallest such institution, it is one it is one of the fastest growing, possessing an asset base of over $20.4 million.